Welcome into the TexAgs Rewind presented by Specs. Ambry, go ahead and just start us off with what your favorite part of the show was.
I'm going to have to say Billy Liucci. Very biased. He's sitting right here, but Billy Liucci was my favorite part.
That's a good choice because he is on the Rewind
Good.
2 times today. The other people on the Rewind are Olin Buchanan in the Go Hour, and then we had Aaron Murray from ESPN, ESPN football analyst and former Georgia quarterback. So check out the Rewind.
If you were to ask the SEC Network, ESPN, CBS, they would probably say Arch. But is it Arch? It used to be Nick Saban. It used to be the head coach, right?
Yeah, it used to be. You know, I kind of think it's still, if you take Greg Sankey out of the mix, because quite frankly, with all the things that are going on politically in college football, you know, he's getting a lot of press, as you would expect. But if you take him out of the mix, you know, right now, I still think it's Kirby Smart.
Kirby Smart's the face of the SEC. Okay, I'll agree with that. But if I make you pick a player.
Okay, if I have to pick a player, you know, there's no doubt that probably he's getting the most media attention. Talk about Arch.
Yep.
But can the face of the most powerful college football conference in America, maybe ever, definitely ever, can the face of that conference be a guy that's never been a starter? If that ever was that, it was Tim Tebow.
Yep.
And yet, I'm sure Alabama had some players that were, you know, if I went back and looked.
Well, let's define face of the SEC.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Like, he's going to get the most views, the most clicks, lead highlight shows,
Yeah, the problem is, you know, maybe it's Lenora Sellers, even though I think a lot of people don't know Lenora Sellers unless you're really into SEC football.
If Lenora Sellers walked in here with 3 other guys, no uniform, would people know who he is?
If you're really into SEC football, you do. Maybe it's Garrett Nussmeier, but who's the big time defensive player in the SEC this year? I mean, that, you know,
Anthony Hill?
maybe, but how many
Simmons?
people? You know, I can remember years where you knew you could have picked out certain guys, Glenn Dorsey at LSU, Orlando McClain at Alabama. You know, you could pick out certain guys, say, okay, that's I don't know that there is that guy this year defensively. I think Ryan Williams
He's definitely in the mix.
but you know, he's a receiver, and receivers often, usually running backs more identifiable than receivers because I guess there's so many of them.
Every year of your career in college, you threw for over 3,000 yards, and you had very strong running games. I mean, I think Todd Gurley, your junior year. So just talk about that when it comes to a quarterback trying to master the offense, but having the ability to rely on a running game that you had, that Marcel's going to have this year.
Yeah, I mean, Le'Veon, Daniels, the offensive line, you know, and plus his legs too. I think that's listen. I consider myself somewhat dual threat. You know, I was labeled dual threat coming out of high school, but I'm not to the same level as some of these guys are, and especially Marcel is when it comes to running, you know, and being a threat. And I think that's something too where you're always working to become a better passer. You're always working on your footwork in the pocket. You always want to, you know, be able to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You know, but sometimes you just got to be an athlete. So, you know, to kind of get on your question first, like, yeah, to be able to have running backs to get it to second and manageable, to get it to third and manageable, where, you know, I don't have to do a 5-step drop. And then also I'm a threat to run the football. I think that's a big thing too. So, you know, for fans, you know, most defenses say when it's third and short, you know, somewhere in that 3rd to 2 to 6 range, you know, short to medium, a lot of teams want to play man-to-man coverage. You know, they want to play man-to-man coverage because they don't want to give up those easy completions in a zone. Well, the problem is you play man-to-man, and all of a sudden you lose on the fact of, you know, are you going to put a linebacker to spy Marcel? Are you going to blitz and bring 5 and leave him wide open to where if nothing's there, he can take off and run his legs? So when you get to those third and manageable because of a strong running game, defenses are going to have to make a tough decision. Do we play zone because of his ability to run the football to get more eyes on the quarterback, which gives up easy completions? Or do we play man and hope that our defensive line can contain him, because if no one pops when it comes to the routes, he can take off and run with his legs, and then all of a sudden you got a Mike linebacker, 250 pounds, trying to chase down a very athletic quarterback. So that running game, staying ahead of the chains with a mobile quarterback, is going to be really dangerous for the Aggies this season.
Do we talk about Ruben Owens enough?
I mean, I
think you do.
I do.
I think you do.
But I heard something the other day, and I don't know who said it, but they were like, might be the best running back tandem in the country. And I'm not ready to say that, because I know what Ruben was in high school. I know what Ruben was, what I thought he was going to be entering last season. But now we're going into year 3, so you got to see it. I think it's there. I know it's there. I think we're going to see that. But if you said running back room and you're pumping in Amari Daniels and E.J. Smith and a couple of true freshmen that I'm really high on, then yeah. 1, 2, we got to see more from Ruben. Because right now you got 1, and 1's coming off a season-ending injury requiring surgery and a lot of rehab, and 2 hasn't really played very much meaningful football yet, because he was a true freshman with a loaded backfield, and then he was a second-year guy ready to break out and had a foot injury. I think Ruben Owens, if he'd have been healthy last year, I think a lot of people would be saying this 1-2 punch might be the best in college football. But now we have to see it.
Yeah,
we have to see it. But Ruben, I think, is going to get a real chance, because you hear Elko, and I don't know what he said in the most recent report, but he had said, we'll talk tomorrow, but like they expect, Le'Veon's way ahead of schedule, and they expect him, and I watched him run this offseason. He looks great. They expect him to be cleared for full contact and all that kind of midway through fall camp, which makes sense. It's just all you really need to do is get him acclimated to live speed and getting popped around a little bit. But it might be where in the early portion of the season, if Ruben proves he can carry that load, you could see it being a little more of him and Amari Daniels. I don't think, just knowing Le'Veon Moss, if he can be practicing full speed by midway through fall camp, and he's going to be participating from day one. This is not like, you got to understand, like in Elko's mind, based on what they've seen, that 2 weeks is the ramp up. So a lot of times you'll hear, well, we might have him back by this date. A lot of coaches, that means he'll be back practicing on this day, and you can expect him to look normal a month from then. No, this is like Le'Veon's starting practice when they start, and they expect him to be full go midway through, which means a couple weeks before game 1, which means if they wanted to, that's still a month before you go to Notre Dame, midway through fall camp. So I think Le'Veon hits the ground running. You remember what Mike Elko said on signing day? He was a 5-star in their mind. Mike Elko sat right here and said we had him as the number 1 ranked defensive end prospect in the country out of high school last year. By their board, they've scouted everybody. That guy's the best. They had to beat out, obviously, a real recruiting battle with Oregon to land him. You saw him in the spring game with the 6 sacks. That's what everyone talks about. I understand, like, you have to factor in and go, okay, who was he going against on that O-line, that split offensive line? Who were the guys he was going against? How many of those were actual sacks versus whistled? All that stuff, whatever. If you watched him and didn't see elite pass rush, I don't care if it would have been 6 real ones, if it would have been 2. If you watched him and didn't see elite pass rush talent, then you weren't watching the game. And you talk to all these offensive linemen when they come through here, and we talk to Armage about it a lot, and everybody's like, this guy, he's the real deal as a true freshman. And again, it's one of those highly regarded guys that gets on campus, and the day he steps foot, and like those guys before him that I mentioned, the work ethic is there. He's turning heads in the weight room. He's turning heads in off-season conditioning. And, oh, by the way, he's like 6'4", 250.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, he's athletic enough that I remember Bronny Zane and I were out watching baseball practice, and he's like,
You see who that is? And I'm, first day I'm out there that he's practicing, I'm like, oh God. He goes up there looking like, poor man's Aaron Judge at as big as he is. And which is crazy you say poor man's Aaron Judge, because Judge is like 6'8" and looks like a Hall of Fame tight end. But he's out there hitting bombs, like hitting home runs off A&M pitching. Having been out there for he was practicing spring ball. Then went out there, hit a home run or two. The day we were out there, he made some layout diving catch in the outfield. And he's a defensive end. And he's not a edge guy. He's a defensive end. He's a future NFL defensive end draft pick. And his impact this year, I know it's going to be day one. What I wonder is how long does a guy like that get kept out of the starting lineup?
Ambry,
Yes.
why don't you tell the people what to do?
Like, comment, subscribe, and come back tomorrow for more.
Thank you. Bye.